Today we're going to be talking about a very unusual thing called the retinal hemifield slide phenomenon. And basically, the retinal hemifield slide phenomenon is when the two visual fields slide because the hemifields don't align. And so the prototype for the retinal hemifield slide phenomenon is a patient who has a chiasmal tumor, like a pituitary adenoma, who has a bitemporal hemianopic field defect. And what that means is normally the two fields overlap, and you have overlap between your right visual field temporally in the right eye and the left side nasal field overlap. And when you have a bitemporal hemianopsia, you have two temporal fields that do not overlap with the nasal fields. And so what you have is juxtaposed two nasal fields, because your temporal field has been knocked out. So when you have these two nasal hemifields juxtaposed to one another, they can slide. And so when the slide occurs, you'll have a breakdown of your fusional mechanism. And basically what that means is your peripheral field overlaps in one eye with the other eye. And if you don't have that overlap, it's going to be very hard to take the two images and fuse them into one. And so in a patient who has a bitemporal hemianopsia, they have two juxtaposed nasal fields, and those two juxtaposed nasal fields don't overlap, and therefore the field can slide, and it can cause a hypertropia or can slide horizontally, producing a exotropia or esotropia. And so it's a non-paretic form of diplopia, and by that we mean there's no actual weakness. It is breakdown of the fusional ability, producing a non-paretic diplopia because the two hemifields slide over one another. And even though the bitemporal hemianopsia is the prototype, any two field defects that don't overlap, so if you have a field that looks like this, a superior altitudinal and an inferior altitudinal in the fellow eye, then these two fields are no longer able to fuse. And so the hemifield slide phenomenon can occur in any patient who has bilateral visual field loss, where the two visual fields are juxtaposed to one another and are not overlapping. And that non-overlapping in the field allows the slide to occur and a non-paretic diplopia, which we call the retinal hemifield slide phenomenon.